Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Taylor, and I'd like to welcome you all to the West Virginia Archives and History Library. We've got a great presentation tonight. I think it will be wonderful for genealogists and people interested in getting into the DAR. I'd like to do a couple things and announce a couple of the programs coming up. On October 1st, we're going to have a program that David E. Rotenizer is going to be presenting. It's entitled An Introduction to the Gray Creek Mound Archaeological Complex, a West Virginia historic site, museum, and research center. That should be very interesting. And that's on a Tuesday night, October the 1st. On October 10th, which will be a Thursday night program just like it's the Thursday night lecture series and the Tuesday night lecture series. So the next Thursday will be Junie Epley, and it's Finding Hidden Ancestors, Native American. That should be very popular as well. But at this time, I would like to introduce tonight's program. It will be presented by Joetta Kuhn and Patsy Adkins. And there are of the Ann Bailey chapter, National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. And that will be a very nice presentation for those of you that are trying to get into that chapter. I think you're all looking for new members all the time, so that's good. The workshop will cover how to get started researching your family's history and some common problems. Joetta and, let's see, I'm reading from this, but in either case, they will be discussing how to join the DAR, and Patsy and Joetta will tell you how I think that they got in, a little bit about that. Maybe. And they are both very qualified genealogists. They spent a great deal of time in our library here. And Joetta has more than 30 years of experience, and I think I've been here 36 years in October, and she goes way back in my memory with researching. And she's the current vice president of the genealogical societies in both Boone and Lincoln counties. And one thing about Joetta that's very special is that she has compiled quite a few books. And these, I know, have been labors of love, because the thing is, I've known several people like her that have come to the archives to research, their books. And Patsy has spent 20 years working on genealogy, and Patsy has been a member of the DAR since 2005. She's the current registrar of the Ann Bailey chapter. And I would like to now introduce to you Joetta Kuhn and Patsy Adkins.
How are y'all doing tonight? I think Patsy asked most of you that got here a little bit early. We've got a sheet that looks like this. If you are interested in joining either the daughters or the sons of the American Revolution, if you'll fill these out, Patsy will look them over for the daughters, and we'll get them to the sons of the American Revolution. And usually the registrars for each of those groups needs the first 3 generations because of the privacy laws. It's very difficult for the genealogists of the societies to go and get past that, because you've got to be you to get your own birth record, and you've got to be you to get your own marriage record and things like that. And as you might have noticed here at the State Archives, they've cut back on the death records, and they go back to like 1963 now instead of 68, except for people who sneaked and are already copied out the hickey doodle. I'm afraid Joe will get me for that, but this is pretty simple. We're asking for your email address, your home number, and your cell number, because there's no use you trying to join these groups and they can't get a hold of you to go and clarify or ask you for more information, something like that. And Patsy will not hound you to death, and I don't think the sons will either. You start with yourself and your spouse, and we have had some people complain that, what do you need his for? Well, because he said we had to get it. We just do what we're told because we're a chapter, then there's a district that we belong to, and then we belong to the state society, and then we belong to the national society. And it's just like any other organization or company, you do what you're told. And they do want this information, and they want copies of your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, and if your husband and parents and grandparents are dead, their death certificates. And they don't have to be certified, and please don't write them because they won't take them.
They will not, yeah, they won't take it, they will do it and get back. And tell me any letter, get new copies.
They're just unusual like that. The only thing they allow is a red pencil from the registrar, and all she's allowed to do is take a ruler, not anything else, but a ruler, and draw a line for the name, the date, the parents. She puts extra on, she gets a drop. You hear me? The noise that, I don't know if there's any way to shut me on.
Some people over there using the computer.
I'm sorry. Well, after you go and do yourself, your spouse, and your parents, and then you do both sides of your grandparents. And like I said, your father's father, and your father's mother, then your mother's father, and your mother's mother. And I think about everybody, most everybody should be able to get that much.
what if you can't?
We'll help you, we're not evil.
I mean, I know, like, my mother's father, they just know his name, and beyond that,
You see, that helps some. Do you know where he died at, buried, born, served in the military, ran away to Leavenworth?
Just the name, that's it.
Is it Smith?
We're not bad, but.
Honey, I found a Joseph Johnson, and I never thought I'd ever find that. I only hunted for 35 years. There's Mr. McClure around here somewhere. There he is. I ran into Mr. McClure, asked him if he was from the Lincoln County McClures. He said, no, I'm not. And I showed him something that I was working on. He said, I know that man. I said, you don't know that man. He knew that man. He'd already researched that Johnson. They were from Washington County, Ohio. They started going backwards and came back this way. But where there's a will, there's a way.
So I just put down what I know.
Put down what you know. We don't expect you to put down no, and don't fib. Ladies, tell your real age. Don't lie for your mother.
We'll find out what it is. And, well, she was talking about that, and we're thinking that right here. It took, how many years did it take to get this one type proven out? It was in a deed, about beloveds in a deed. It was what Joseph Tucker to John Tucker, Lewis. And on it, it had to my beloved son. Everybody's looking for, what, 30 years for that?
What did it take us?
Half an hour?
I mean, there's ways. I mean, you just gotta hunt. And don't be backward. Look everywhere. I look in the chancery records. But if you guys are starting out, we're gonna, for the beginners, let me go through the basics, okay? If you guys will look, I told them to give you a pedigree chart, which looks like this thing. It's got a place for you. Your father goes to the top, your mother goes to the bottom. It's very sexist, and I don't like it. And it keeps going the same way. The men are always on the top, and the women are always on the bottom. Us ladies know better, but some man thought this for me. This one here that you have here, you'll see you. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 generations. So that's taking you back to your great-grandparents, and as you see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 grandparents. Every generation it doubles.
And as I tell people, remember this. You had 2 sets of grandparents.
we will find you somebody who gave A or something in the revolution. If you can't find it on one line, we'll find it on another line.
And I told a lady down at the beauty shop down here on Chesapeake that one day, and she said, no, you won't. She said, I am from Syria. I said, well, you might be a little harder. She said, but one of my grandmothers was one of them. I said, one of them what? She's an American. Really? So I did the American she thought was way out there. Well, she went into the DAR. It wasn't that hard. I've got to go and get her to meet with Patsy. She's kind of ashamed of it. You know? Because people have different prejudices. But not me and Patsy, we don't care for nothing, as you'll figure out. Now, whenever you write down when they were born, you do it funny. You go, day of the month, like the 16th. Then you write the month. You write out June, J-U-N-E. Then you write down the year, 19 and 60. And you remember that and send me birthday cards. Now for the place, it's almost as complicated. You do the town, Charleston, the district, pick a district. Flat, that ain't gonna be in Charleston.
West.
Okay, Charleston, West District, we're making that up. Kanawha County, spell out the county word. West Virginia, don't do no WVs because a lot of people don't know who we are, let alone WV guys. USA. A lot of people go, well, everybody knows. I said, no, not everybody knows. You're supposed to, that's how you're supposed to. If you're going to do it formally, if you're doing it for yourself, you do it your way. It's like, you know. When married is always on the guys, you'll notice on this. And where. And it's the same deal. And you'll have to watch on the married because they'll have a date when they applied for the license and a date when they actually broke over and got married because he got cold feet and it took him 6 weeks. But you work on these things to get you started because if you can see your information here in front of you, it helps you go and think and organize it better in your mind. And we gave you 2 so you can practice on one and make copies of the others. The other thing that you use to do a family tree is what they call a family group sheet. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a husband and wife. They got down 11 kids here, and if you got the problems that I've got with the grandma that had 18 children, you'll use more than 1 page for each family. And I've got 2 grandmothers that managed to pull that trick off. And I don't know why either of them stayed with their husband. Now on the family group sheet, there's a place for the husband, and at the bottom after the born, and that's CHR for christened, M-A-R-R for married, died, that little B-U-R for buried. Now sometimes they'll die in Korea. They may be buried in Korea after the war gets done. We'll take them up here to Spring Hill Cemetery or another small cemetery around here and rebury them. And I would go with the last place they were buried. And then there's a place for the husband's father's full name, the husband's mother's full maiden name. And you guys know a maiden name is the name that she had before she was ever married. We just recently brought in a member that had 3 previous husbands, and she said, I don't think I'll get married anymore. I said, well, Lord, I don't know why. But we went with her maiden name. I can't remember what it was. Hot? Yeah. Hot. And Patsy is an expert on the Hot family. We have 4 members that do not know each other, all of them trying to come into one chapter with the same great-great-grandpa. Now that is a huge coincidence, but Patsy is really, she's turning into the Hot family genealogist. Now on the children, you'll see the regular stuff here, surname capitalized. That's to go and make sure the people can read it. You need to print legibly, whenever one of the groups went and did their genealogy of the census of Kanawha County, Washington District, where I'm from, every Turley turned into a Farley. Because censuses were taken cursive, that they're not even teaching in school anymore. And the lady wasn't familiar with the area, she didn't realize, and she looked at it and she said, Farley, 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 and they were Turleys. And I hunted and hunted, and I said, and you skipped my family anyhow. I said, where did they go? I never could find them. I guess she just completely jumped them. The given name, that's their first and their middle name. If you know it, put it down. If you don't know it, put it down. If you know their nickname, put it down real tiny so you'll remember it. Because you might think you'll remember this stuff forever. You won't. I'm 53 years old. I've been at this since 1971. I had 5 generations then. I can't remember since then. I can't remember since this morning. I'm doing good to remember that I had lunch. Then you see when born, there's your example again. Day, month, and year. Town, county, state or country. Date of first marriage, which I usually do not approve of. I go with the marriage with the husband that you had, the kids that I'm interested in. But you can always put down the first marriage there. See at the bottom here in a corner, other marriages. And you got a whole back sheet. You can write all over this thing if you find more stuff. I'm the world's worst to go and say, okay, number 1, and Tommy, Sally, Billy, and Bessie. Because I want to keep track of all those little cousins and things. I'm the oldest on one side of my family. I've got 18 first cousins. I'm the oldest. They call me Aunt Joetta, and I'm like, I'm not your aunt. But they think I am because my uncle that's the youngest and me are only like 8 years apart in age. So they think we should be, I'm with the old people. That's what they think. But that's a family group sheet. We gave you 2 of those, or you should have gotten 2.
When you guys are doing this, and like she says, fill it out all the way. Because you never know, because a couple of applications me and her had to do it. Somebody has done the sister, well, we can't find the information we need on that sister. Well, somebody else said one on a brother. And we tied it in like that. So make sure that you get all the siblings and at least all the siblings married, even if you don't write down the kids' names, because the other information will help you take it back another generation.
Now, the first thing you do in beginner's genealogy is you don't start with Benedict Arnold because your last name is Arnold. You start with you. And as hard as it is to think, you go and start with yourself, do your parents, your grandparents, and keep going back that way. You don't start with Benedict Arnold and try to come this direction. It won't work out very well. You could be like some people whose last name is Washington and they just know they're related to George. He didn't have any kids. He adopted 2 of his wife's grandchildren. You've got to go and start with yourself. Start with the known and work towards the unknown. Do we got any questions yet?
I just have a comment. When you get back here so far, our kids, do they name 2 or 3 kids the same thing?
They did. The question was, will one family name 2 children with the same name? They will. I have seen them do it whenever the first child died, and then they'll name the second, one of the next children after that child. And that's usually because it's named after somebody even further back in the family. Or you can be like my Kinder family over here in Boone County. They got down towards the end of about 17 kids, and they must have forgot, and they named another one John. They called him, the older one was John, and the second one was John Howard. And I was like, John boy. It just put me in the mind, you know?
And also, with her saying that, also remember to look at the names. Because sometimes either in the son's name or daughter's name, the middle name will be a last name. To keep the family names going, sometimes they gave a middle name for a child and used somebody's last name, so the last name would not, like the wife's maiden name.
Okay, and don't forget that brothers, they would follow the formula, and you would have
Yes.
Billy Joe and Susie Bell over here, and they would both name it their first son, or, okay, Billy and Johnny would name their first son after daddy, so you'd have two George Juniors here, and they'd be a bit close in age, and then you'd go on down
Yeah.
too.
That's where you run into a lot of problems when you get it back to the Patriot, and to the Patriot's child with the names, especially if it's senior and junior. And in that town, there are other families with the same names. You have to figure out which one's yours. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't because of the record, but you just want to get a hold of them and pinch their little heads off. That's why I wore my t-shirt.
How can one ancestor be so much trouble? I know I've stood over top of my great-grandfather at the Turley Cemetery, threatened many times to dig him up. To shake the bones. I was so frustrated because I couldn't get anywhere. Sometimes you'll have a senior and a junior in a man or women, because they would do that to the girls. They would say Patsy Jr. because the mom was Patsy and the daughter was Patsy. But sometimes with the guys, they were uncle and nephew. They just happened to live in close proximity, and that's how the community wanted to differentiate between the two of them. So you can't just assume, well, he's senior and that's junior, and must be his dad. It don't work like that. It does more nowadays, but nowadays doesn't what counted back in 1800. That's 200 years ago, guys. The thing to do, I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask you, did they issue birth certificates, actual certificates of birth, maybe for someone born in, the 1800s or something like that?
The first birth records in Virginia start in 1853, but they weren't actual certificates. They were written down in a book of record. We got them through 1859 because somebody was kind and purchased the reels from Virginia, because all those records stayed with Virginia when we became a state in 1863. That's another problem. Do you put down Virginia for Kanawha before 1863, or do you go ahead and put down West Virginia? And that's just going to have to be a personal thing. Most of us do. It was Virginia until 1863 on June the 20th, and then the 21st was my luck. Somebody would have been born on the 20th, and they'd just been down the middle. And then you had the problem with counties. Kanawha County used to be in Allen Creek, all the way across, and then it became 1867, and it became Lincoln County of Allen Creek. And you have Boone County formed in 1847. They didn't just pick one year and make all the counties at once. All the counties came around at different times. And the people had to petition the governor to get to be a county. And it's real fun, because the next thing I want you guys to go and do when you're starting your family tree is your census records. The newest census that is going to be of use to you is the 1940 census. And it tickled me to death because Mommy was 11 months old and Daddy was a year and a half. So I can go and start on that. And I've got my parents on the census finally after waiting all these years. They wait 72 years to release the census. This was just released in 2012. Then the next one's 1930, which is nice. 1920 is okay. It's got the name of the person, it's the head of the household, everybody in the house, their relationship. 1910's fine. 1900's really cool because it's got the year that they were born and the month. 1890 sucks because it's sort of burnt up. And the only thing you can get at for West Virginia And there's only a few states that you can go and get the special census of Union soldiers and sailors. And I think Washington District of Kanawha County had 10 men. So you got 10 men, and there was probably 300, 400 families, and that's all you got. But it does tell you where they got shot at. And they got shot in the places that we can't talk about, or if they lost a leg, or they were blinded during the war, or something like that. That's kind of handy to know. It's interesting. Because there's got to be some meat to all this, or what's the use of doing it? If all my family was nothing but Baptist preachers, like I was telling this lady here earlier, it would be, whenever they run off with the lady down the road, and I'm trying to figure out if they threw him out of the church or not, and he lost his, doctrination to be a preacher, that's what I'm interested in sometimes.
Do you have a website for that?
For preachers?
No, for the census.
Oh, well, you can come up here and you can use ancestry.com. If you're at home, you can use familysearch.org. And it will give you certain years of the census. The ancestry.com that they have here at the archives is free for use here, but if you use it at home, it's a paid site. And it runs something like $299 a year if you get the whole 9 yards.
$30 a month if you get international.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, we just paid for a whole year the other day, it was $299. I was like,
You got international, I'm paying $155.40 for US,
yeah,
ancestry.com.
that's right. It's cheaper if you just take the American version.
I had a question about counties that split. When a county splits off from another one, do they take their records with them, or do the records stay, the old records stay in the home county?
You heard anywhere they moved?
No,
They all stay in the original county.
they also, and that's the other thing you have to remember, like she says, like you said, when they split up, you have to go back to the original county to look for the records and hope and pray they're there. As when I got ready to do my application, I had to use census records and the Kith and Kin books out of Boone County to help prove one generation, because the Lincoln County Courthouse burned in 1909. Anything prior to 1909, if you didn't get re-recorded,
It's gone.
it's gone. And that's the other thing you have to take into consideration when you're doing this, burned. And national, and all the societies know this, so they take that into consideration. So there's other stuff that you can use for proof for your generation to get into the DAR. It doesn't matter what organization you're going through.
We like to use the 1900 census to prove a marriage for Lincoln County, or one of the other counties that's got problems with their marriage records, because it says, and how many years have you been married? Number. Thank God they asked, because I have no clue when they got married, but they've got 3 kids born before they got married.
Do you have records here that are not on the West Virginia Culture website?
Okay.
Because they have them on there also.
If you come here, this is something else over here in this corner, I will point out, over here in this corner, they have some of the census records for all the counties that are typed up. And the DAR will accept those in lieu of the actual censuses. These have all been typed up and you can read them very, very well. They've even gone for Ohio and Kentucky, and a couple of other states too.
Not all of them,
Not
just
all
some
of
of
them,
them.
just some of them.
Now, when I was getting my application ready to go into the DAR, I needed the 1935 marriage record for my grandparents. I went on the website, like the lady was saying, no record. I said, now I know they were married. I have seen their marriage somewhere, but it's been a while. I can't remember where it was, and I called, And one of my good friends up here diligently looked. He couldn't find it. I got in a car, and I came up here, and I went back there, and I jerked the roll of film out. It's a microfilm. 34, 35, 36, Kanawha County is not on the website. They try to explain to me how you can miss 3 years, and just, you know, it's like a clerical error. I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant, and things happen and you lose, you know, you'll add 2 and 2 and it will be 5 and you feel really stupid later on. But sometimes things do happen in real life. Those 3 years are just not on the marriages for Kanawha County. At some point in time, whenever money comes up or somebody is available to transcribe those records, it might happen. But that's not the only case. Nothing's 100% perfect unless you go right to the county, and even then, the daggone rat will evade off the date. Because they do have rats, bugs, and everything else in these courthouses. You know they do. This here is a very important thing to go and have. It looks like this on the outside. It says Research in the West Virginia State Archives. On the back, it's got the name of the county, the year it was formed, and what counties it came out of. You've got to go and keep a timeline in your mind. Boone County until 1847. Before 1847, it was either, what was that? And then you're going, oh God. It was Cabell, Kanawha, or Logan. The further south, the more it was going to be Logan. The further west, the more it was going to be Cabell. Allen Creek was Kanawha County. Allen Creek split down the middle just exactly like Nitro now. They're putting up a whole extra pile up here for you guys. But that's a very important document. Now, in the 1890, I told you was burned except for the soldier census. The 1880, it's still head of household, the relationship to the people. 1870, all you're getting is names. Head of the household first, and everybody else that lived there, no kind of relationship is written down. 1860 has the same kind of thing, except for Boone County, who had a really odd enumerator. He put down a county they were born in. He thought it'd say county, it'd say country. But it was a real good mistake, and I appreciated it, because you'll see mom and dad are born over in Botetourt, and then you'll go and see a couple of the kids, and they were born maybe in Giles or somewhere, and then it'll start, Kanawha, Kanawha, and then finally here's the baby, and he's, you know, boom. Yes, I can tell when they got here, I can tell when they got here. Surely they didn't go backwards and forwards having these kids. It's real handy to have these little quirky things go off. 1850 census. Head of the household, just all the people that lived there. It could have been cousins, hired people, anybody. You cannot go by looking at it and guessing. You can't go by the last name, because sometimes they just put down head of the household's last name, nobody else's last name got recorded. Got to be very between 1850 and 1870, and then you get to 1840 and you can just cry. The only name that is recorded is the head of the household. And that goes all the way back to 1790. And there are more censuses sometimes in between, depending on the state. It's not here. We didn't take extra censuses, like a lot of the states out west did them every 5 years. We didn't do that. Have a try. Closer to the point.
Yeah, and even if something is out of state, we can get copies of it if you need it for proofs. I'm working with Marcia right now, and her Revolutionary Patriot will come out of Cherokee County, North Carolina. So then we can get the other records and stuff for you to do. And like she was talking about the censuses, like she said, when they get back to 1840, yeah, it is a pain in the butt to use them. But when you get stuff back from National, like I have written, where you have to go back in and reproof stuff.
Where they have doubts.
Doubts.
That's what that is.
Where they have doubts that something's not going, that something's not right. you can use the 1850, you can use all the different censuses, and if all the ages match up, the names match up, they will accept the earlier censuses. And when they are in doubt, they just want the other extra information to make sure that it's right. Because even within the DAR database that you can go in and research your ancestry on, sometimes you will get across the top of it. Problems with this ancestry. You have to reprove service.
It's called red line.
Red line.
That means they don't accept anybody into that one.
Anymore. Unless you can figure out what the problem is. And yes, and a lot of them is with the name patterns. Some people years ago had Junior down as being the one that fought. It was Daddy that fought, not Junior.
They figured it out, now we're all stuck.
And you're like, well, fiddlesticks. But they do give you a chance to work on it, see if you can't get it figured out. That's a 2-year period that they give you to work to get everything figured out. Because they even have cold cases right now they're working on where they're going through with these red lines, trying to get them to reopen them back up. Because so many people can go in on some of these lines. And you would be surprised at some of the lines that where you can go in and put a new child that's never been proven to that patriot. That's how I did it. My child was, if I'm not mistaken, was Thomas Clarity's last kid, and he had 6 kids. His daughter was, the one I used, was the only one that was not proven back to him, and I managed to get it proven back. And they love it when you get a new kid in, because that opens up more new lines for people to go in on.
What is considered acceptable proof? Can you use Bible records, church records?
You can use, what they really like for the first 3 generations are birth, death, and marriage records. They're getting very,
Actual copies from the
honey, they're starting to get very, very nitpicky about those first 3 generations. They want them documented because they know most of them can be documented. Ha ha. Sometimes on that 3rd generation, you run into problems, but there are ways of getting around it. You said Bible records. Yes, you can use Bible records. Christening records. Now, on your Bible records, you have to be careful. Because years ago, people would use Bible records. They would go in and add stuff into the Bibles to make it look like it's been there for years. Well, they're good up at DC to be able to read them Bible records and tell that this stuff was added. So now you have to take the Bible, find a notary, have the notary look at it, type up a letter stating that before then, this is what was in the Bible, that it looks original, and then you send that in along with the Bible record.
And the title page of the
And
Bible.
the title page, if you can still get it, and they will accept that. But they are very, very nitpicky if they're looking at Bible record, and it doesn't look, the writing, they can tell by the writing too, if something's been added, they know they won't accept Bible record like that.
Okay, I know deeds.
Chancery records.
Changeling records, the deeds. And if you're looking at the early deeds, this is something that Jamie was telling me about. Jamie Simmons. This is
Wave
some.
your hand, dear.
Stand up, dear. That is somebody you all need to know about. She is their expert on colonial history / revolution history. You get back that far, come here, you go to Jamie. Jamie will help you find the information. She's very, very good at what she does. She makes our lives easy sometimes. If we can't find something, it's like, Jamie, she'll sit and go, if she can find it, she will find it. But all the people down here who work here are very good at what they do. Yes, ma'am.
When I started doing genealogy, which was maybe 20 years ago, the DAR had contacted the DAR, and at that time they said that all the old records were closed and that you had to reestablish.
Reprove the whole
Line.
line.
Because some of the early applications, the information they used to document it wasn't always right. It's where, like, you would get the names of certain Tom and Tom Sr., you didn't know which one was which.
My question is all that stuff still closed?
reopened a lot of them,
They've reopened a lot of them.
not all of them.
Not all of them, and they're slowly but surely working on that. They are slowly but surely working on that.
On the closed files, when we said we're
Red
redlining,
line, those are the ones they're working on.
And where can you view these?
on the NSDA
They are.
website.
And it, yeah, the
They
DA
have something called GRS, Genealogical Research Systems.
system. You can actually go in on the public page for the DAR and do searches like that and look at the database. And to see whether or not your patriot was there, or make sure it wasn't redlined. But they are going back in and changing that because the earlier applications, some of the stuff wasn't right on it. We've had to go back in and completely reprove it.
If you have multiple, I have 7 that I
Pick
know
one.
of.
Pick one.
Just
Pick a
pick
good
one.
one.
Pick a good one. Okay, now, you bring up a very good point. You have 7. Okay, in case like that, I would look over all 7 of them, and I would be like, okay, you will use the easiest one first. Always use the one that you know you can set and prove and go in on.
Documents.
Then you go back in. That's where your supplementals come into play. Your supplementals are where you go in, you have 7, you go in on one, that leaves you with 6. You can go in and prove all 6 of them and take them in. But I always tell people, we go with the easiest one first. That you know you're not going to have any problems with it.
You don't think you are.
You start. You don't think you're going to have any problems with it, but sometimes you end up doing it. I just worked this afternoon with Regina on her stuff, and we only had to take hers back 4 generations to tie her into somebody already up in D.C. who had already done the research. And by that, when we go through on e-membership and I'm building the application, I go in and look, and I use my national number. Well, if we have the same patriot and the same thing, you may only have to take it back 3 generations, and then we tie one to my national number, and we don't have to prove anything else back because it's been proven. Some of them you have to take them back 8 generations, some of them the most I think me and her have been 5 generations taking it back and proving it. One of them we just got through doing. Her great-grandmother was one of the founding members of the William Morris chapter here in Charleston.
We gave that one to the
William Morris chapter. It was like when I started looking at it and I got it back far enough, I realized, because there's a blue book that they have it down here, the history of the DAR, and that chapter was formed back in the 1920s, and her great-grandmother was one of their founding members. I said, you all can sit and have her.
Because they just had to get a couple generations.
Generations, and I just had to update a couple of generations on them because the information that what she did back in the 20s wasn't available that's available now. And that's why they say when they like you to update these things so that they can make sure that everything is right. And she brought up the point about divorces and things like that, sensitive issues. They take stuff like that into consideration. Now, if you are divorced from your husband and you have no children and you take back your maiden name, we can take you in on your maiden name. You never have to lift the marriage.
We can do that even if you're married too, because
Yeah.
you pick what name you want on your certificate.
What name you want on your certificate and how you want to be listed in their national database. And if you have kids, and if they want to sit and join, they can sit and join, because I just got through doing 7 applications in one family. It was a mother, a daughter, then the daughter had 5 daughters. Another one of them all to go in, 3 of them were married, and it was going to be tit for tat trying to get hold of all their marriages and the husband's birth certificates. I looked at the mother, I said, do you think the daughters will mind if we just use their maiden name? Because we already had all their birth certificates. She says, no. She said, use their maiden names. And I told her, I said, when they start having kids, I said, all they'll have to do is get the husband's birth certificate and a copy of their marriage certificate, and that's all their child will need to go in their birth certificate. Oh, okay, yes. And also, these are different ways, is that, this will be in your pamphlet too, this is acceptable service. There are many ways that we all can get into the DAR or into any of the net societies. But you can be a signer of the Declaration of Independence.
Send it up.
If you're a person with John Hancock, you're okay. And then military service such as Army and Navy of Continental Establishment, state and local media, state, Navy, privateers, military and naval service performed by the French National and the American Theater of War, silver service under the authority of provisional of state government, state officers, county, town officers, town clerks, selectmen, jury, town treasurer, judge, sheriff, constable, jailer, surveyor of highways, justice of the peace, etc. And then you've got one Patriot Service, which members of Continental Congress, State Convention, and Assemblies. And then you have members of subcommittee made by war, including services of committee, which further the cause of the colonies from April 1774, such as the Committee of Correspondence, Inspection, Safety Committee, to care for soldiers, family, etc. Signers of oath of fidelity and support, oath of allegiance. Members of the Boston Tea Party, defenders of forts and frontier, signers of petition addressed to and recognizing the authority of the provisional and the new state government, doctors, nurses, others rendering aid to wounded, minister who gave patriot sermons, encouraged patriot activity, furnishing substitute for military services, prisoner of war or refugees from occupational forces, prisoners on British ship Old Jersey or other prison ships, services to the Spanish troops or the Louisiana military after December 24, 1776, service by French nationals within the colonies or in Europe in support of the American cause. Those who entered material aid in Spanish America supplied service cattle for Gaviz forces after December 24, 1776, those who applied for Virginia certificates of rights to land for settlements, and those who were entitled to and guaranteed rights, those who took the oath of fidelity to the Commonwealth of Virginia from October 1779 to the 26th of November 1783, and to those who rendered material aid such as furnishing supplies with or without reimbursement, lending money to the colonies, munition and makers, gunsmiths, etc. And I will tell you all one other thing, that if you have a lady who gave aid or any of these things, who picked up a gun, you can have a lady patriot and go into the DAR. I have a lady patriot. Right now I'm working on to get into the DAR. But yes, as a supplement. But there are women and stuff who gave aid who would pick up guns and stuff and go fight. Especially if they were around their husbands. Molly Pitcher, they're very good. She went with her husband. When he got killed, she picked up doing what he was doing and helped him. So that's the other thing you can look for, to see if you've got a lady who helped fight. Because I think on my supplemental, besides the wife fight, I think the husband fought too.
As you can tell, Patsy's family didn't get along with nobody. Now, we don't have a lot of time because I only give y'all some time to ask questions and they have to close at 8 o'clock. The DAR application is very similar to the Sons of the American Revolution application. This thing works. I think it takes. Y'all got this on a piece of paper. Follow along with me. There are 6 steps to a DAR application. Find a chapter to join. Western District, which is in this area, is Ann Bailey, Kanawha Valley, William Morris, and John Young. As you can tell, a lot of them are named after famous people. Do you know that you have a relative who's already a member of the DAR or SAR? All you have to do is get your stuff and find out who they went through and let us know, and calm down. Because it'll be really easy to do that one, most likely. If you can get a copy of her DAR application or his SAR application, it works both ways.
You can do that even if it's in a different state?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that even if it's in a different state, and that is one thing. If you're using SAR papers, the DAR is very nitpicky. Jamie, they won't, the DAR won't accept the stuff off the SAR applications, will they?
No.
So
This
if,
is a good
look, so then if you have an SAR app, you care to speak?
Well, however, the SAR has gotten as strict as the DAR in the last few years, and the proofs are almost identical. So it still will benefit you if you have a recent applicant to the SAR to find out what they used as their proofs, because they will be the same proofs that the DAR will need.
Thank you.
You can go on, as we told you, at the NSDAR website. You can have Patsy or me or any other member look up for you, or you can go on yourself and request a Patriot Index lookup. And you'll put in the name of the ancestor you think it is, and it will give you the information about people who have already applied underneath that person. You can order what they call a record copy. Last time I ordered one for my cousin, it was $10, and you get it immediately. It's a PDF one. The next page goes on about the lineage research. What can I do to begin my DAR application? And it's the things we told you about. Your birth record, your marriage record, your parents' birth record, your parents' marriage record. If they've passed away, their death records, and you can use obituaries. Tombstones. They don't have as much reliability on a tombstone, and you know why. Because they didn't do it the very same day they died. At least nowadays they don't. It could be 6 months later, and if you're like, my brother got so mad at me after Dad died, somebody asked me, and it was an attorney, he said, and exactly when did your father die? I said, July the 9th. My brother looked at me and he said, it was January the 9th that there was a snow one up to our heads. I said, that's true. It was a very cold July. If you don't have these documents, if you have these documents, make copies. Don't write on them, don't highlight them, don't do nothing like that. Highlighters are just as bad as using a pen or a regular pencil. At least with a pencil, if you've got to do it, you can't do it real light and we'll erase it. The question 3, I have the copies made or I've ordered them. Now what? Once they get there, let Patsy know or whoever, because every chapter has their own registrar. That's a person that submits your application to National. And she'll go over and fill out your paper application, which goes to National. The next page is the ancestor search, and it is the DAR genealogical record system. This is what I was telling you about. You put in the last name. I love to sit there and put in Turley and McAllister and Abshire and Gillespie and all these dumb ones. And there's never none. I had to go back 8 generations to find mine.
And also, one other thing, since she's talking about names and putting them in that database, remember sometimes the last name can be spelled differently. You may have it, well, with Rita, it was Cook. And she said, make sure you look under C-O-K-E because sometimes they added the E to Cook. So if you have an odd last name, type in some of the variations you have on it because it should come up, hopefully.
And one of the worst ones that I thought anybody could have is the one I went in on, Zirkle. You know, some people spell it like circle, like a circle, but this is a Z, and I'm like, it was horrible. But you can go and add more information besides the last name. If you put in the first name, it'll go and narrow it down, or you can put in the state of service. Around here, 75% of it's going to be Virginia. You guys know that. And a few of us are going to be Pennsylvania. But you can leave that blank too. You don't have to fill out every box on the genealogical research system. You just fill out enough to go and try to narrow it down a little bit. John Hill would be an interesting name, for example. That's as bad as John Smith. Over here, we're on this page now. The 6 steps. Begin with yourself. Document and prove your lineage to your parents and your birth vital information. If you're married, get your husband's birth and vital information in the marriage documents. And so on and so forth, because you have to prove your connection to every generation. I mean, this is something that you're applying for, and if it's not the DAR, the SAR, or something like that, some of the county genealogical societies have groups where you can be a pioneer in that county. They're going to want the same thing. I mean, you might not want to go and belong to this thing. You might want to belong to the thing that they just had in the American Spirit magazine, and that was the Saloon Keepers, Descendants of America, which might be more fun, if they left us a few bucks. Let's see. You just keep on doing your generations until you get all the way back to that patriot. I was what I consider a patriot. He didn't shoot a gun, he gave them grain, and he let them use his pasture. I said, well, they'll never let me in for that little bit, but look at it. Didn't hurt a bit. And I took my little certificate too.
What constitutes proof? Because sometimes you see lists.
Somebody had already done it.
Oh, but
And it was in this book, and whenever you look on that GRS, the Genealogical Research System, it'll tell you exactly where the book is. It'll have like Abercrombie's, page 42, and you go and find that book, which I had to come in here and say, what are they talking about? Because I never heard of it. And I opened it up 42, there he was. He gave grain and pasturage for 3 nights.
But what I mean is, you'll often have lists of men who served in certain regiments, and that's all it is. It's just their names.
But
So-
then,
That's where you have to sit and start looking to see if they pay taxes in that county.
I want to thank one of my cousins for sending this over. This is what they call a pension record from the Revolutionary War.
After 18, those really didn't start,
I sat down to her and let her look at it first.
they really didn't start the pensions until really after 1800s, or anything prior to,
The older men were probably already dead, so it would be harder to prove. Some of these guys lived until 1850, 1860 because they were drummer boys. I spent the whole
Yes.
morning with a lady that just came into the Ann Bailey chapter. Her ancestor was a drummer boy. He ran off to fight with his daddy. So he was 12 years old when he went. Well, he didn't die until the 1860s, I don't believe, which seems insane, but once you think about it, you're going, well, he was 82. That's not completely ridiculous. But we can find out a lot about him, and that's just one generation.
and also, I will mention this because I see people, some people have got books. The family history books, the newer they are, the DAR will not accept them, except if the person who wrote the book took the time to give the resources as to where they got their information. If all they do is give you name and dates, maybe a county in the state, DAR won't accept it. You have to have where they got the date of December 24, 1776. Where did you come up with that date at? And if it's not in that book, or they don't give you the source, you can't use it. The older family history books, they will they will accept. Some of those they still accept, like the newer ones and stuff. And use that as clues. Yes, ma'am.
When you're saying the older ones, I've got a couple of lines that are like, somebody wrote a book without telling where they found all this, like 1909, 1913. That's probably too new, isn't it?
Yeah.
Usually it has to be older than that, but that's still good clues on where you
Yeah.
came from.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Use every bit of clues because they don't hurt.
Use the book as, use it as clues, because you'll be surprised what some of those books will give you as clues to where you can sit and go find something at. And same thing when you use FamilySearch.org or Ancestry and you're looking at the family trees, do not take that stuff as gospel.
Absolutely.
A lot of it is, I won't say all of it, but some of it is wrong.
Some of it's garbage.
And you have to be really, really careful. So use it as a guideline. And it works with us, especially if you're doing West Virginia research. Because if you live real close to these archives, you can come up here and pull the actual records and go, okay, they were right. And then you can also prove when they're wrong too. So don't take that stuff as gospel. Yes, Miss Janie.
I wanted to address the issue with when you see a list of people in a regiment, how do you know that that is your person? Your person has to have lived somewhere in proximity to where they mustered in. So what you'll want to do is first establish where your person lived at the time of the Revolution, what jurisdiction they were under, because your county that you think of now may not exist in that time period, it may be an earlier county. And then look to see where that particular regiment mustered in. And if you find one is in one place and one is in the other place, it probably is not your person.
Have you all ever been to a genealogy? And you go to this page and it says, check the Boston transcript. And that just irritates me. You've got to go to Connecticut to get it.
Or you go to the newspaperarchives.com and pay a subscription fee. A lot of these services do require a subscription fee. They go and relate to genealogy. On Monday night, they started a brand new genealogy show at 9 o'clock. Cannot remember the channel, can't remember the name. That's it.
PBS.
And then they have, who do you think you are? I'd like to have the money they put into some of that stuff. And people think and come up here and drive Jamie and Mary and Elaine and Bobby and everybody else absolutely nuts. They think they can get 20 generations in an afternoon.
We all wish we could do that.
I started in 1971. I'm just tickled to death to be as far as I am some days. And it's not that far sometimes, it doesn't feel like, but I am back to the Revolution. I know I can go back to Melrose in Scotland, but I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this, and at first, there really wasn't any money except for a roll of freezer wrap paper. Because if you turn it over, it's got a paper side, and the other side is the slicky side where you put the meat on or whatever. I turn it over right on the paper side. That's how I did my pedigree charts. Back then, whenever I was 11 years old, I didn't know that they had stores that sold them. I started out with just a simple how-to book and aggravated the absolute daylights out of my grandparents and my great-grandparents who were still alive whenever I was 11 years old. I was very lucky to be able to get it right from the horse's mouth, and they still lied to me.
Yeah.
My great-great-grandparents are supposed to have been divorced. Did they tell me that? No, they did not. And it's very upsetting after you put this much. I was here one afternoon after 20 years of doing genealogy. Little girl was back here, saw her up here all the time. Couldn't, I don't remember names. And she said, I am so upset. They quit that day early because they used to stay up until 9 o'clock back in the olden times. And I went straight home and went in, I said, Mommy, am I adopted? She said, you lost your mind. I said, no, but I'm thinking about it if you tell me I'm adopted after all the time I put in on it. No, you're not adopted. You're the spitting image of your great-grandmother. Come and look at the pictures. I don't want to hear that. I want you to swear that I am not adopted.
Well, I will tell this story because we're working on a half written right now, and the ladies here, Dorothy, do know. I will just share a small tidbit. We worked on it. She gave me her information. We sent it in. We get a half written back going, her father's mother's not who they're claiming it is.
There's nothing like to think you
And
don't
we
even
were
know your
like,
grandmother.
okay. So we went looking. He had always thought his mother was Elizabeth Sardinius Wallace. Come to find out his mother was Elizabeth Wallace. His father and Sardinia had divorced. Nobody knew about that. And then he remarried somebody else. In the same
He
family.
married one of her cousins. He was
Cousins.
so mad at me when I walked back there and found that divorce in a chancery record in
And
about
then you
5
run
minutes.
across stuff like that that you're not expecting. It's like, oops, how do you explain this to people? Yeah, because she was not expecting us to come back going, well, this ain't right. This is how it's going to be.
But there's a lot of enjoyment with genealogy,
Oh, yeah.
guys. And you can do it on the cheap. I'm serious. Come up here, use their databases. You can use FamilySearch.org. You can look at some of these magazines they have back here in this first aisle. You'll see Family Tree magazine. You'll see Family Chronicle. You'll go and look at the LDS church records. There's a lot of free information out there. You can get by with that roll of freezer paper and a pencil stick.
Yeah.
You don't have to put a ton of money into it unless you want to. And every now and then I'll go wild. I mean, I went to Las Vegas for the National Genealogical Society convention this year, and it was just a hardship to be in Vegas for 7 days and nights. And I didn't lose more than $100 in them nasty little machines out there. But I had a real good time. I saw places where they don't have no trees, and I'm still not over that. And the best part of my whole trip out there, those 4 days at that conference, was going in and registering the children under 15 and over 10 for their first genealogy class at the society. And one darn little girl brought back in there a family tree that would make the King of England look like a pop. And I was just like, God, look what this child's got. And it was beautiful. And it had been calligraphied. It had been painted. It was gorgeous. And she had all of her documentation. She couldn't have been 13 years old. I started to drop her down the trash can.
And that is
But
something.
she was thrilled with her work. And you can go and get your
Yeah.
kids. My nephew's 13 years old. He's trailed behind me up here since he was 6. He bums me for quarters constantly. Need another quarter. Need another quarter. I said, Tom, we're at the archives. What do you need? Found another birth record. I found my uncle's. I need to make a copy of it.
Yes.
What do you do whenever you've got a kid that's actually interested in his family's history, family tree? He has his own Civil War uniform. He goes to reenactments. He's 13 years old. He's twice as tall as me. And it's great to go and have that in your kids. And with the DAR, the SAR, and some of these other places, your kids can be eligible for scholarships.
Yeah,
It's really great.
and from the time they're little, we'll say 5, or they may even take them from 1 year old, but we'll say from 5 to 18, if you have a daughter or a son, they can join the children of the American Revolution.
Your grandchildren can join it. We can get you guys in.
And then what they do is that when they turn 18 years old, if they want to come into the DAR, they can go on into the DAR. So the kids can join the different organizations for the children in the American Revolution.
Little
them
boys get to go
started.
into the Suns immediately if they want to, from what I understand.
Yeah, they don't have to wait, unlike the girls, they gotta wait till they're 18. But there are scholarships, that's the other thing to remember, there are scholarships that they can get from the DAR for school. They have to write. They have essay contests and a couple of other things we do real quick, because we're running out of time, especially if you all have questions. The DIR also does, the majority of their work goes toward the veterans of this country, past, present, and future veterans. They are always doing something for the veterans.
We deal with the Indian schools.
All the different, we do the schools, we do the veterans, the schools.
We do the Indian schools and the American schools. We teach the little kids the Pledge of Allegiance. The teachers are covered up. You know what big classes some of them have around here now. They don't have time for everything. It's civics that we're trying to teach the kids. Mr. McClure.
Joetta, I got a challenge for you personally. My aunt was in DAR. She started doing genealogy at 13, and she died at 103, and she's still doing some work.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I know where you get your hard-headedness from on this.
We,
The cost for the children of the 5 through 18.
I think it's 35, I don't think they raised it.
To join the DAR, effective July the 1st?
Yes, yes, right after Continental Congress, they
Because
raised
of the
it,
cost.
they went
For
from a hundred
postage and everything else, it's $120
Well,
to join.
to join.
But I mean, you don't go and do it all at once. You go and save $20 a month, because it's gonna take you 3 or 4 months to go and come up with all this.
Yes.
You don't have to have certified copies.
Copies,
You can have regular
Copies.
copies that you pay 25 cents for.
yes, either get
You
your
can
copy,
keep the cost down on this, that's the biggest fee for joining.
yes. And that's the other thing is that if you can go to the county and get the record, it's cheaper. If you go down to the Diamond, you will be paying now $12.
No, I think it's 14.
Oh, it's gone up to, it's gone up $2.
It's like the US postage stamp, it's gonna be 49 cents next week.
$10 for each certificate. So if you can go to the county, or you can come up here, or we can come up here and get it, we can save money. We try to save you as much money as possible because of that initial fee. And most of that initial fee goes for the 5 genealogists they have up at DC that sit and go over and review these applications. They have 2 hours to review an application.
And if it don't look right the first go around, it probably is gonna get sent back down.
They leave it. Yes, ma'am.
I did want to point out, because you mentioned how you could come up here and get, and all of the birth and death records are not on our website that was referenced. The birth records, we hold back 100 years, but we do have microfilm of county records into the 1960s. So you have to know the county to search those, but we have that on microfilm. We also have death records that you mentioned how they're now being kept back, that into the late 60s or early 70s with the state flag ones, we do have those on microfilm.
The best night to go and come up here to do family trees is Thursday night.
And also, I will make one other comment here about coming up here. Every spring, the last weekend in March or the first weekend in April, depending on when they set it up, they do something called the Hoot Owl. From 6 p.m. Friday till 8 a.m. on Saturday morning for 14 hours, you are locked in here to do nothing but research. If you don't want to research for 14 hours, you go back in the back and you snack for 14 hours. They take you up to the 3rd floor and show you all sorts of nice stuff that they don't have down here to share with everybody.
Elaine, what's the date?
The 28th
Of March?
of March. Now they only do it
One night a year.
one night a year. And there are they limit it to 56.
Which is
So,
about what we normally have in here. These are sort of extra seats.
yeah, so there's 50 people they can fit in here for the hoot owl,
They
but,
have a real good time.
huh,
And I usually leave about 2 o'clock in the morning because I can't handle it because I'm just old.
yeah, I know, she's pretty.
I went to sleep one night up here and it was scary, so I go home now.
But no, I would tell you all about that. You have a lot of research work because you meet everybody from the state who come down here to do research. You even have people that come out of state to do research
We
at
always
that
have
time.
somebody come from way far. We've had a lady that rode a bus in, what was it, Chicago? That lady came from Mary?
Yeah.
She rode a bus all the way from Chicago, was up all night, got here, stayed up all night again, and was it Joe?
I think,
Joe
yeah.
took pity on the, well, not pity. He felt obligated to go and show what a good time she could have in West Virginia. He took her out for breakfast. He took her back to the bus station, and he made sure the bus came and got her and took her right back to Chicago. But he didn't have to do that, but Joe Geiger is a cool guy.
Yes.
Anything you ask him for, anything he can do for you, he will try.
Right, do it.
I have aggravated him to death. Oh, I want the Spencer records from the hospital. I need them. I said, I can't give you those. And that's about the only thing he won't give me.
No.
He has actually got out one of the Civil War medals and let me hold it in my hand, because I ain't never going to get one for one of mine. Because they either lost them, sold them, bartered them, whatever. But I've actually got a hold of one, because he's a cool guy and he lets us do that at Who Out.
It's because
Just
it's,
a little bit extra.
But they don't have Civil War soldiers for the ones who fought for the Confederacy.
That's right.
And I have been, one woman nearly drove me crazy. And I told her every way I could think of, they didn't have them for the Southern man. They only had them for the Northern soldier. And I finally said to her, losers don't get medals, and she understood.
when they do the hoot owl, and I go, and when Joe takes people off, if I go up, he assigns someone to watch me. Joe Geiser, he knows me well enough to know is that if I disappear, I'll just be perfectly content to stay up on the 3rd floor and just dig through the information they have up there. So he makes sure that somebody watches me the entire time I'm up there. So I don't go off and hide in the corner so I can stay up there and research.
You'll find your bones somewhere.
Probably.
That'd be fun with Patsy.
That'd be fine with me, because I'm always telling you, y'all can leave me here. I said, I don't take the information out. I'll just put more information in here for other people to find.
Right.
I have more fun doing that than taking
We have a good time. We got a question here.
Yeah, this is just, in listening to you guys talk, it seems as if the DAR is really tight on what they require in the way of documents. But a comment, my family came over from England, and they're Sparkses, and they came onto the eastern shore of Maryland. And the descendants of that group formed a Sparks Association.
That's nice.
And they have kept such strong records. But the
Now
thing
those,
is,
you might do a little bit better with the society, considering how long it's been in existence.
the thing is, they reported in 1964 that our, Deanna here and I are related, but our 5th generation grandfather was an American Revolutionary soldier. Now, he was from North Carolina, but there was another soldier with the exact same name in South Carolina who did not apply for a pension where ours did. That man's relatives in South Carolina, because they could not prove that he was in the Revolutionary War, tagged on to our relative and was approved by the DAR, and they were members of the DAR because they used our grandfather and
See,
not
they may
our-
have been redlined right on out too.
They will be, because mine was
Because
red
once
line.
you're in, you're in. But they can go and just zip and close the line because those aren't the right kids.
Yeah, a few years ago, they went through, and I think Jamie would know more about this, but they looked at some of these patriots and how people had established their lines. And when she talks about that, they didn't throw any current members out who had come in under those, but they refused to accept anyone else in the absence of additional proof. In some cases, and in some cases it is a matter of establishing that this one who was in the revolution was your ancestor.
Yeah.
And so there were people who were accepted in the past who would not be accepted today.
Yeah, and some of the lines, because they were shutting down some major league lines and stuff.
Philip Harless.
Yeah, and some
Out
of
of
these
Boone
women and
County.
stuff, the lines they were closing, some of the women were not happy because they were like, some of the officers and stuff, and their lines were being closed. They were not happy with it.
Well, it's my understanding also that in 1958, there was obviously a relative who I've never heard of, but they used our same grandfather I'm talking about to join the Sons of the American Revolution. So if we came in and tagged into your all's research, we should be able to find out that information.
Patsy can probably look it up for you like
Yeah,
that.
because see, I have a copy of that man's application that was approved. I have it right here.
Okay.
You know.
And we'll be happy to help any of you. And
Any
like,
of y'all, just give us the information things, just make sure that me or Joetta, or as you're leaving, and you
or
can't stay.
Jamie gets them because
Jamie or
She'll get 'em
even
to us.
Mary over here, we will be more than glad to work with anybody. Yes, ma'am.
I'll point out that the Sons of the American Revolution, at least for a number of their meetings during the year, have those meetings in this room.
right.
So if any of you gentlemen are interested in joining the SAR, I have the contact information, and occasionally they do meet off-site for special reasons, but for the usual meetings, they are here in this space on a Saturday.
The DAR has came up here, and the Ann Bailey chapter has had their meeting here also, but we don't do it as often. Our girls like to go and do other things besides go to the library, unfortunately.
How
At the fifth quarter.
Well, most
often do y'all come?
chapters meet once a month, and it's either the first Saturday of the month, sometimes it's the second Saturday of the month. And it just really all,
We meet from September through June,
June.
at least one day a month. In December, we go somewhere snotty and fancy like Berry Hills Country Club.
And there are different, in all fairness to say, there are different chapters
Yeah.
here in the Kanawha Valley.
There's 4 chapters here. Usually 3 out of 4 are together for Christmas.
Is there an annual dues as well?
Yes, the annual dues for our chapter just went up to what?
It's 55.
It's 55. So, yeah, annual dues is 55, but you only pay it once a year.
You're paying for your national dues, your state dues, your district dues, and I think that left us, what, $10?
Not quite.
Not quite
$10
$10 for the chapter itself.
Mm-hmm.
And our project this year is to go and raise money to purchase a specialized wheelchair for an injured veteran that he cannot get through the VA at this time. It's what they call a track wheelchair. So we've got a big goal that we're working towards. We also go out to naturalization ceremonies, and we go out to Constitution Day at the Robert C. Byrd Federal Building. And we're happy to attend a lot of other patriotic events like the Armed Forces Day Parade, depending on the chapters. I mean, we're all over the place. You guys know how that goes. You're liable to see me anywhere. Yes, sir.
I don't see any contact information on here.
That is one thing we forgot to do, was to tell Bobby, give Bobby our contact information. How do we want?
I think it's because they've got us on speed dial. My email address is long, and you're not going to like it. It's Joetta, Joetta, Kuhn, at McAllister, McAllister, See, I told you wouldn't like it. Joetta. I was born to do genealogy. I'm named after my great-grandfather, his oldest daughter, and then my middle name is my mother's middle name, and my grandmother named me this.
All right, give us the
Joetta Kuhn at AlistairKuhn.com. Kuhn, because my husband's family cannot spell. My mother's related to Coons in Boone County, and C-double-O-N over there, most of the time.